What would you do if a thug broke your arm? As a 67-year-old veteran with a service dog, I never expected to become a target. When an ex-boxer attacked me, he had no idea I was once Special Forces top sergeant. Justice was coming. To most residents in Oakwood community, I was just old Frank Miller, the quiet veteran who walked with a slight limp and had a German Shepherd service dog named Ranger. My unassuming appearance, with faded flannel shirts and simple jeans, revealed nothing about my 30 years in Special Forces. Behind this ordinary exterior was a former master sergeant who had led classified missions across 3 continents. I'd earned multiple Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, and commendations that remain partially redacted in military records. After retiring, I sought tranquility in Oakwood, a small community with wide sidewalks perfect for Ranger's assistance with my balance issues from old war injuries. The VA doctor prescribed Ranger not just for stability but to retrieve items I frequently dropped due to damaged nerves in my hands. I chose Oakwood for its quiet streets and proximity to the VA hospital. The neighborhood seemed perfect until Victor Steele arrived 6 months ago. Most neighbors treated me with casual friendliness, unaware of my military background. I preferred it that way. Years of operating in shadows taught me the value of anonymity. Little did I know my quiet retirement would soon be shattered by a confrontation that would force me back into a different kind of battle. Victor Steele purchased the Community Fitness Center last winter. At 45, the former middleweight boxer still maintained his intimidating physique, 6'2", 220 pounds of defined muscle, arms covered in tribal tattoos. His shaved head and perpetual scowl completed the intimidating image he carefully cultivated. Rumors about Victor's past circulated quietly. Some said he'd been banned from professional boxing for excessive brutality. Others whispered about connections to organized crime. Whatever the truth, his arrival changed Oakwood's atmosphere immediately. Our troubles began when I attempted to use the Community Fitness Center for my VA-recommended rehabilitation exercises. Ranger accompanied me, wearing his official service dog vest. "No dogs allowed," Victor barked from behind the reception desk. "Can't you read the sign?" I politely explained Ranger's status. "He's a service animal, prescribed for my medical condition. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, service animals are permitted." "Do I look like I give a damn about some government act?" Victor interrupted, his voice echoing through the gym. "This is my business, my rules." I presented documentation from my VA doctor, which Victor crumpled and tossed aside. "Listen, Grandpa," he sneered, leaning close enough that I could smell protein shake on his breath. "I don't want your mutt shedding on my equipment. Take your PTSD problems somewhere else." Emily Chen, a nurse from 2 streets over who was using the treadmill, stepped forward. "That's completely illegal, Victor. You can't discriminate against service animals." Victor's glare silenced her momentarily, but she stood her ground. The confrontation ended with me leaving, unwilling to escalate matters. But Victor wasn't finished. Over the following weeks, he implemented a special veterans fee at the gym, double the regular rate. When I parked near the community center, I'd return to find my car boxed in or my tires mysteriously low on air. Twice, anonymous complaints were filed about Ranger acting aggressively, requiring animal control visits. The officers quickly recognized Ranger's impeccable training and dismissed the complaints. Emily warned me one afternoon while I was walking Ranger. "Be careful around Victor. He's targeting other veterans too." Jim from Oak Street said Victor offered him protection from vandalism for a monthly fee. I nodded, anger simmering beneath my composed exterior. "I've noticed. Thank you for your concern, Emily." The situation deteriorated on a crisp Tuesday morning. I was at the community park doing my physical therapy exercises with Ranger providing balance support. The park was nearly empty except for a young mother with her toddler at the distant playground. I heard heavy footsteps approaching from behind. Victor appeared with 2 younger men, gym employees who mimicked his swagger and intimidating demeanor. "Well, if it isn't the gimpy old soldier and his mutt," Victor announced loudly. Practicing your little exercises? Cute. I ignored him, continuing my prescribed movements. 30 years in special forces teaches you when to engage and when to maintain discipline. Hey. I'm talking to you, old man. Victor stepped closer, deliberately invading my personal space. You've been bad-mouthing me around the neighborhood, haven't you? I haven't spoken about you to anyone, I replied calmly, focusing on my breathing. Bullshit. Veterans are complaining about my fees, saying I'm discriminating. That's your doing. One of Victor's companions, a muscular man with a neck tattoo, snickered. Maybe Grandpa's hearing aids aren't working. Victor circled me, eyeing Ranger, who remained perfectly positioned at my side, alert but disciplined. That dog looks dangerous. Probably should be put down before it attacks someone. When I didn't respond, Victor's face darkened. He kicked at Ranger, not connecting, but threatening enough that any service dog would react. Ranger flinched but held his training. Don't, I warned, my voice dropping to the command tone I rarely used in civilian life. Or what? Victor laughed, kicking again, this time coming closer to Ranger's face. I stepped between them, protecting my service dog. That's enough. Leave us alone. The change was instantaneous. Victor's expression shifted from bullying to rage. Don't you ever tell me what to do in my community. His fist shot out with professional precision, catching me in the ribs. I stumbled but maintained my footing. The second blow came toward my face, which I partially deflected. Old instincts never fully disappear. Tough old man, huh? Victor snarled. What happened next occurred with calculated brutality. Victor grabbed my left arm, twisted it behind my back with practiced efficiency, and applied pressure until the sickening crack of breaking bone echoed across the park. The pain was explosive, radiating through my entire body. I dropped to one knee, my vision swimming with agony. Ranger barked frantically, positioning himself protectively between me and my attacker. Maybe now you'll learn your place, Victor spat. Hey! Stop that. Michael Thomas, a high school history teacher, was running toward us, phone outstretched, recording. I've got all of that on video. I'm calling the police. Victor hesitated, assessing the situation before backing away. The old man attacked me. My guys saw it. He fell and hurt himself. Through waves of pain, I maintained enough awareness to hear Victor's final threat. This isn't over, old-timer. Next time, the dog gets worse. At Oakwood Memorial Hospital, the orthopedic surgeon confirmed what I already knew, a clean break of my left radius and ulna, requiring surgical repair with plates and screws. You're in remarkably good physical condition for your age, Mr. Miller, the doctor noted, reviewing my x-rays. But this is still a serious injury that will require significant rehabilitation. 2 police officers took my statement while I waited for surgery. Officer Daniels, young and earnest, reviewed the video Michael had sent to the department. This is clearly assault, Daniels said, his jaw tightening as he watched Victor break my arm. We'll be arresting Mr. Steele immediately. I nodded, the military stoicism that had defined my career masking the pain. He's been systematically targeting veterans in the community. By evening, I'd learned that Victor had been arrested but released on bail within hours, his connections with local officials proving useful once again. Michael, who'd provided the video evidence, called to say he'd received threatening messages warning him to forget what he saw. As I adjusted to the cast that now encased my arm from fingers to shoulder, there was a knock at my hospital room door. Robert Kendrick entered, his familiar face a welcome sight. We'd served together in Afghanistan before he joined the police force. Now a detective with the county sheriff's department, Robert wasn't officially assigned to my case. Heard what happened, he said, settling into the chair beside my bed. Steele's got connections that are making this complicated. Nothing's ever simple, I replied. Robert leaned forward, lowering his voice. Frank, I've been hearing things about Steele. His gym might be more than it appears, possibly distributing steroids, maybe worse. And there's a pattern of veterans being harassed, especially those receiving benefits. I absorbed this information, the tactical part of my brain already working. The local police. Some are in his pocket, Robert confirmed. But not all of us. I'm going to look deeper, unofficially. For the first time since the attack, I felt the familiar strategic focus returning, the mental state that had carried me through countless missions. I'm going to need your help, Robert. This goes beyond my broken arm. During my 3-day hospital stay, Robert began gathering information. He brought files during evening visits, carefully avoiding hospital surveillance. Steele's gym has had unusual cash flow patterns, Robert explained, spreading papers across my meal tray. Large deposits that don't match membership numbers. And look at these police reports. 7 veterans in Oakwood have reported property damage or threats in the past 4 months. None resulted in arrests. I studied the documents with the methodical attention I'd once given mission briefings. He's running a protection racket targeting veterans. That's my guess, Robert agreed. But there's more. His gym's basement has regular deliveries at odd hours. I think he's distributing more than just steroids, possibly opioids diverted from legitimate medical sources. Emily visited daily, bringing home-cooked meals and professional insights. During her 3rd visit, she closed the door and spoke quietly. I work with several veterans affected by Victor. One confided that Victor threatened to report him for drug-seeking behavior if he didn't pay for special membership. He was terrified of losing his pain medication prescription. The pattern became clear. Victor was specifically targeting veterans with access to medication, disability benefits, or VA housing assistance. Those who refused to pay faced manufactured complaints, property damage, or worse. After my release, I converted my garage into an operations center, just as I'd done in countless safe houses overseas. Using security cameras Emily helped install, we documented Victor's associates coming and going from the gym at unusual hours. Robert discovered Victor's criminal record had been partially expunged, a favor from a judge whose son received special training at Victor's gym. Before purchasing the gym, Victor had faced multiple assault charges and 1 investigation for distribution of controlled substances. All mysteriously disappeared. The situation gained national attention when Michael's video of my assault reached a veterans advocacy group. Ex-boxer breaks elderly veteran's arm became headline news. Reporters descended on Oakwood, interviewing community members and uncovering more victims of Victor's intimidation. Victor responded with a public relations campaign, claiming I had threatened him first and fallen accidentally. He positioned himself as a businessman being targeted by mentally unstable veterans with grudges. What Victor didn't know was that I had contacted former teammates. 3 retired Special Forces operators arrived in Oakwood, renting an Airbnb across from the gym. Together, we established round-the-clock surveillance, documenting every visitor, every unusual delivery. Just like old times, muttered Jackson, my former communications specialist, as he set up listening devices. Except the enemy looks different. The mission remains the same, I replied. Protect the vulnerable. Eliminate the threat. 3 weeks after the assault, our surveillance paid off. We captured video evidence of Victor receiving packages from a pharmaceutical delivery truck that had been reported stolen the previous day. More importantly, we documented him distributing prescription medications to non-patients, including selling to teenagers behind the gym. When Robert took this evidence to his superiors, reactions were mixed. Some wanted to move immediately, others hesitated, citing Victor's connections. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Victor, growing increasingly paranoid about the media attention and investigation, decided to eliminate what he perceived as the source of his troubles, me. At 2:38 a.m., security cameras captured 2 men approaching my house. Jackson, monitoring from our makeshift command center, alerted the team. We were prepared. The intruders disabled what they thought was my security system, actually a decoy, and forced entry through the back door. They found themselves facing 3 highly trained veterans who subdued them without firing a shot. Robert arrived with trusted officers minutes later. The captured men quickly turned on Victor, revealing he had paid them $5,000 each to make the old veteran disappear. This attempted murder for hire crossed jurisdictional lines, bringing federal authorities into the case. The FBI's involvement circumvented Victor's local connections, and agents executed search warrants on his home and business simultaneously. What they discovered shocked the community: detailed records of extortion payments from 31 veterans, illegal pharmaceuticals worth over $200,000, and evidence linking Victor to a larger distribution network targeting VA facilities across 3 states. Victor was arrested at the gym, his face contorted with rage when he saw me standing beside the FBI agents, my broken arm in a cast but my stance unmistakably military. "You," he sputtered. "You're behind this?" The lead FBI agent, herself a former Marine, smiled slightly. "Mr. Steele, I'd like to introduce you to Master Sergeant Frank Miller, retired. Special Forces. One of the most decorated NCOs in his unit's history." Victor's expression shifted from anger to disbelief as she continued reading from my service record. 3 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor Device, multiple classified operations. "You're lying," Victor interrupted. "He's just a broken-down old man with a dog." I met his gaze calmly. Never judge an opponent by appearance alone. First rule of combat. For the first time, I saw fear in Victor's eyes. The federal courthouse was packed for Victor's trial. Media outlets nationwide covered the story of the ex-boxer who targeted veterans, now facing charges of assault, extortion, attempted murder, and drug trafficking. On the 3rd day of proceedings, I was called to testify. Rather than the casual clothing I'd worn around Oakwood, I arrived in my full-dress uniform with all authorized medals and decorations, the first time I'd worn it since retirement. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom as I made my way to the witness stand, the hardware on my chest telling a story of service few civilians could comprehend. I testified methodically, describing Victor's pattern of harassment, the assault, and the subsequent investigation. When Victor's attorney attempted to paint me as a paranoid veteran with delusions of persecution, the prosecutor simply played Michael's video of the assault. "Master Sergeant Miller," the prosecutor asked, "why didn't you defend yourself against Mr. Steele? Your military record suggests you were certainly capable." I glanced at Victor before answering. Special Forces operators are trained to use minimum necessary force. In civilian life, that often means no force at all. I chose to protect my service dog without escalating the situation, despite Mr. Steele's provocation. When Victor took the stand in his own defense, his composure crumbled under questioning. His contempt for veterans became apparent as he ranted about government handouts and playing the PTSD card. "These so-called heroes come back and expect special treatment," he spat. The old man should have respected my authority in my community. The jury deliberated just 4 hours before delivering guilty verdicts on all counts. The judge, a Vietnam veteran himself, showed no mercy during sentencing. "Mr. Steele, your premeditated campaign against veterans, citizens who sacrificed for this nation, reveals a disturbing depravity," he stated. 20 years in federal prison, forfeiture of all assets, and restitution to your victims." Victor's face contorted with rage as he was led away, still shouting threats. For the first time since the assault, I felt my military-trained vigilance begin to ease. The mission, as we said in Special Forces, was complete. Victor's assets forfeiture transformed Oakwood. The fitness center was purchased by the VA and converted into a rehabilitation facility for disabled veterans. Emily became its program coordinator, implementing specialized programs for those with combat injuries. My broken arm healed stronger than before. The orthopedic surgeon joked that the titanium plates made me partially bionic now, though cold weather still brought aching reminders of the assault. As media attention faded, Oakwood established a veteran support committee to address issues facing former service members in the community. I reluctantly accepted a leadership role, finding purpose in helping others navigate challenges I understood intimately. Robert received a commendation for his investigation, eventually being promoted to lead a new task force focused on crimes targeting veterans. The publicity surrounding Victor's case prompted other communities to examine similar patterns of exploitation. Perhaps most significantly, the younger veterans in Oakwood, those who had served in Iraq and Afghanistan, began seeking me out. Many struggled with the transition to civilian life, battling invisible wounds and a system that often seemed designed to frustrate rather than help. "How did you manage it?" asked James, a former Marine with traumatic brain injury, during one of our weekly coffee meetings. 30 years of service, all you saw, and you still function. One day at a time, I told him honestly. And by finding new missions worth serving. Ranger became something of a local celebrity, with children often asking permission to pet him. I used these opportunities to educate people about service dogs and their importance to disabled veterans. The community center established an annual Service Dog Appreciation Day, bringing in trainers to demonstrate how these animals transform veterans' lives. When local schools requested presentations about military service, I found myself reluctantly stepping into an educational role I'd never anticipated. "Your greatest service," Emily told me, "might be happening right now, after retirement." 6 months after Victor's sentencing, a letter arrived from the federal penitentiary where he was serving his time. His handwriting was aggressive, the pen nearly tearing through the paper. "Miller," it read, "I have friends on the outside who will finish what I started. Enjoy looking over your shoulder for the rest of your pathetic life." After 3 decades in special forces, such threats held little power. I composed a brief reply. "Victor, I've survived enemies far more dangerous than you. I hope your time in prison gives you perspective on the damage you've caused. Service dogs save lives every day. Perhaps someday you'll understand the meaning of service to something greater than yourself." At Oakwood's first Veterans Recognition Day, I watched young children interact respectfully with aging service members from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and more recent conflicts. The sight reminded me why we served, not for recognition, but for moments like these. Sometimes, I told the gathered crowd during my reluctant speech, the greatest battles veterans face happen after returning home. The true measure of our community is how we treat those who sacrificed for it. If you respect the challenges veterans face and believe in standing against bullies, leave a comment below sharing how you support those who served. Your respect matters more than you know.